This terrifying cave creature is actually half human and half spider. And here's why. If you're scared of spiders, then this story will have you locking yourself in your house with the lights on. Because deep in the sealed limestone caves of rural Kentucky, spelunkers have found walls draped in but these webs were woven from brittle bone fragments, and they all belong to one creature, a half-arachnid, half-human monstrosity known as the bone spinner. It all started in 1968, when an explorer was charting a new passageway in the vast Mammoth Cave system. The network of underground tunnels had already claimed several lives and was hiding many more secrets than anyone ever imagined. This particular cave was once a popular tourist attraction until its entrances collapsed and it was sealed off from the outside world. With no way out, over 200 visitors and staff members died and became trapped inside. But one name stands out amongst the rest. Helen Viola was a local schoolteacher who visited the cave with her husband and friends. They wanted to check out the famous stalactite formations, but they didn't expect to find a dead body. Helen was the first to spot the remains. It was near the entrance in an area called the Rot Room. Helen described it as a dry cave with stalactites hanging from the ceiling. As the group moved deeper into the tunnel, they realized they weren't alone. Human bones littered the ground, seemingly scattered at random. Some of the bones were still connected by strips of clothing, suggesting the unlucky owners hadn't had much time to escape whatever fate had befallen. As they continued their journey, the air grew colder and more humid. Then they came across something truly disturbing. A large cave spider had spun a web directly across the path. The creature was massive, around 12 inches wide with long spindly legs and a hairy body. But that wasn't what made it so horrifying. It was what the spider had used to spin its web. Instead of silk, it had used bone fragments, weaving them together to form a strong, sturdy material. The explorers were shocked. They'd stumbled upon a real-life version of a zombie spider, an arachnid that's rumored to weave webs from human remains. In some parts of the world, there are spiders that wrap their victims in cocoons made of silk. When the prey is small enough, the spider can eat it alive. If the creature is too big, the spider simply waits for it to die and then devours it. These spiders usually go after insects, but sometimes a bird or small mammal gets caught in their webs. But nobody expected to find a giant cave spider that was hunting humans. Not only had this spider killed people, it had used their bodies to build its lair. To make matters worse, there was nothing they could do about it. There was no way out of the cave, and any attempt to destroy the spider's web would only agitate the creature. With no other options left, the explorers tried to communicate with the spider. They spoke to it calmly, trying to reason with it and convince it to let them pass. Surprisingly, the spider responded, although it didn't say anything helpful. It squealed back at them, making a high-pitched noise that echoed throughout the tunnel. Suddenly, the ground began to shake as a gigantic spider scuttled toward them, its beady eyes fixed on the newcomers. The explorers ran for their lives. They didn't want to stay in the cave, but there was no escape. The entrance had collapsed and they were trapped inside with a bloodthirsty spider. Some of the group tried to climb up the walls of the cave, but it was too smooth and they couldn't find any. Others attempted to dig through the mud, hoping to find another opening, but their efforts were in vain. The cave had been sealed off for hundreds of years, and there was no way out. And then the worst thing happened. The cave spider pounced. Its massive fangs sank into the flesh of one of the explorers, injecting him with a paralyzing venom. Within seconds, he collapsed to the ground, and the spider dragged him away. They never saw him again. Over the next few days, the cave spider struck again and again, picking off the explorers one by one. The survivors watched in horror as their friends and family disappeared into the darkness, never to be seen again. And soon it was just them and the spider left in the cave. They decided the only way to escape the cave was to fight their way out, so they armed themselves with rocks and sticks, anything they could find to defend themselves. But the spider was too powerful. It easily swatted them away, sending the weapons flying. The survivors ran for their lives, hiding in the darkest, most secluded areas of the cave. But the spider found them anyway. It squeezed through narrow openings, navigating the tunnels with ease. The explorers fought back, but it was no use. The spider was relentless, and soon it had captured them all. It dragged its victims to the center of the cave where it built its lair. There, in the soft, muddy ground, it laid eggs. It was ready to start a new life and raise an army of bone spinners. The explorers knew they had to do something drastic. They banded together and formed a human shield, protecting the last remaining egg. They figured if they destroyed the spider's future offspring, maybe it would stop killing them. It was risky, but it was their only option. Slowly, carefully, they crept closer to the eggs. They didn't want to alert the spider, but it was too late. The creature sensed danger and lunged at them. The explorers fought back, but it was a losing battle. The spider was too strong, and it seemed like they were doomed. But then suddenly, the spider froze. It let out a loud screech that echoed through the tunnels. The explorers looked at each other, confused. What had happened? The spider collapsed to the ground, its life force draining away. With the spider defeated, the explorers destroyed the eggs. They didn't want any more bone spinners to be born. Then they set off to find the exit. They had no idea how long they'd been in the cave, but they were determined to get out. They searched for hours, but the entrance remained hidden. Just when they were about to give up, they heard a noise. It sounded like someone was digging through the mud. They followed the sound and discovered a small hole. With renewed energy, they dug through the mud and finally emerged from the cave. They had escaped the bone spinner and survived the deadly mammoth cave. But as they stumbled out into the sunlight, they knew they'd never forget what they'd seen and experienced inside. The explorers wasted no time in sharing their story with the world. They told everyone about the bone spinner and the other creatures that lurked in the depths of Mammoth Cave, but nobody believed them. They thought the explorers were making it all up. Years passed and the explorers moved on with their lives. But every now and then, they'd hear a noise that would send shivers down their spines. It sounded like the echo of a scream, a desperate plea for help from someone trapped in the darkness. Then one day, a young spelunker decided to explore the cave for himself. He wanted to see if there was any truth to the explorer's story. What he found shocked him. The cave was filled with bone-laced webs, and he could feel the presence of the bone spinner watching him from the shadows. He ran for his life, but the spider was too quick. It snatched him up and dragged him into the darkness. No one has ever seen him again. Some people believe the bone spinner is a real creature that lives in the Mammoth Cave. Others say it's just a legend. But one thing's for sure, if you enter the cave, you should watch your back. You never know what might be lurking in the shadows. In the darkness, the bone spinner spins its webs and waits for its next victim. And if you hear the sound of bone snapping, then run for your life. That's the sound of the bone spinner's deadly embrace. But what do you think? Is the bone spinner a real creature or just a legend? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out my other stories about terrifying cave creatures. Thanks for watching. Bye.